There is a tiny spot in the mountains of Burundi where you can stand over a small stream and say you are touching the very beginning of the longest river in the world. Most people think they know where the Nile starts, but this hidden pyramid in the middle of the African highlands holds a secret that most travelers never get to see. Burundi is often called the heart of Africa because of its shape and its location, but it is also the heart of some of the most intense adventures you can find on the continent. In this video, we are going to explore 20 incredible things you can do in this underrated country, from dancing with royal drummers to diving into the deepest lake you have ever seen. You might have heard that this part of the world is hard to visit, but I am going to show you why the reality on the ground is full of smiles, fresh fish, and green hills. By the time we finish this list, you will understand why this small nation is the best-kept secret for anyone who wants to see the real Africa without the crowds of tourists. Let us start with the basics of where you are actually going, because Burundi is a place that feels like a beautiful painting come to life. It is a land of high mountains and deep valleys, which means the weather is almost always perfect, like a never-ending spring day that stays warm but never gets too hot. Because the country is so small, you can drive from the tropical beaches of the lake to the misty rainforests in just a couple of hours. The people here are famous for their hospitality, and they often call their home the country of honey and milk, which tells you everything you need to know about the food. Now, most people start their journey in the city of Bujumbura, which used to be the capital and sits right on the edge of the massive Lake Tanganyika. One of the first places you have to visit is the Living Museum, which is not a boring building full of dusty old boxes and glass cases. It is actually a big open-air park where they have built perfect replicas of the royal compounds where the ancient kings of Burundi used to live. You can walk through the straw huts and see how the kings organize their homes to keep their families safe and their cattle happy. While you are there, you can also see some of the local wildlife up close, including some very large crocodiles and leopards that live in the park. It is a strange feeling to be in the middle of a busy city and then suddenly find yourself looking into the eyes of a massive reptile. After you have seen the history, you should head down to Saga Beach to see how the locals spend their weekends on the white sand. The sand here is incredibly soft, and the water of Lake Tanganyika stretches out so far that it looks like you are standing on the edge of the ocean. You can grab a cold drink at one of the lakeside bars and watch the sun go down while listening to local music playing in the background. This is also the best place to try the most famous food in the country, which is a very special fish called mukeke. This fish only lives in this specific lake, and people travel from all over the world just to taste its sweet, white meat grilled over an open fire. If you want to see where the locals get their ingredients, you need to spend an hour or two getting lost in the Bujumbura Central Market. It is a loud and colorful place where you can find everything from bright West African fabrics to hand-woven baskets that are stronger than plastic bags. The smell of fresh spices and roasting coffee fills the air, and you will likely find yourself chatting with vendors who are very happy to show you their goods. Do not be afraid to haggle a little bit, as it is all part of the fun and a great way to practice your greeting skills with the locals. But what happens when you leave the city and head into the wild parts of the country where the animals still rule the land? A lot of people worry that there is not enough wildlife left to see, but that is a big mistake that causes people to miss out on the Rusizi National Park. This park is located right where the Rusizi River flows into Lake Tanganyika, creating a giant swampy delta that is perfect for hippos. You can take a small boat out into the water and see dozens of hippos bobbing their heads up and down while they watch you pass by. It is also a paradise for birds, with hundreds of different species flying overhead, including bright kingfishers and massive fish eagles. If you prefer the shade of the trees, you should head north to the Kibira National Park, which is a massive high-altitude rainforest. This forest is so thick and green that it feels like something out of a fairy tale, and it is home to several groups of wild chimpanzees. Hiking through this forest is a workout because the mountains are steep, but the sound of the monkeys screaming in the trees makes every step worth it. You might even see some of the rare mountain monkeys that have bright white fur on their tails, which look like little ghosts jumping through the branches. For those who want a classic African savanna experience, Ruvubu National Park is the largest protected area in the whole country. Because this park is so remote, you will often feel like the only person on Earth while you watch buffaloes and antelopes grazing in the tall grass. The river that runs through the park is full of life, and the lack of big tour buses means the animals are much more relaxed and natural. Now, we have to talk about that secret I mentioned at the beginning, which is the famous source of the Nile at Rutovu. There are many places that claim to be the start of the Nile, but this spot is the southernmost point where water starts flowing toward the Mediterranean Sea. There is a small stone pyramid there to mark the spot, and you can drink the cold, clear water right as it bubbles out of the ground. It is a powerful feeling to stand there and realize that this tiny stream will eventually travel thousands of miles to water the deserts of Egypt. Not far from there, you will find the Kagera Waterfalls, which are easily some of the most beautiful sights in all of East Africa. There are 4 different waterfalls in this one area, and you can walk along a path that takes you right behind the falling water. The sound is like thunder, and the mist will soak your clothes in seconds, but it is the most refreshing feeling after a long day of hiking. The way the sunlight hits the water creates rainbows that seem to follow you as you move from one cascade to the next. One of the most important things to do in Burundi is not just seeing nature, but experiencing the culture that has survived for thousands of years. The Gitega Drum Sanctuary is the best place to see the famous royal drummers, who are recognized by the United Nations for their incredible skills. These men carry massive drums on their heads while they dance and beat them with heavy sticks in a rhythm that you can feel in your chest. The drums are made from hollowed-out tree trunks and covered in cowhide, and they were once used to communicate across the hills during the time of kings. Watching them perform is a high-energy experience that will leave you breathless as they jump and spin while never missing a single beat. After you see the drums, you should head to the National Museum in the city of Gitega to see the treasures of the old monarchy. Gitega is the new political capital of the country, and it has a much slower and more traditional feel than the busy streets of Bujumbura. Inside the museum, you can see the actual spears and shields used by the kings, as well as ancient pottery that shows how people lived hundreds of years ago. If you want to see a different kind of nature, the Kagera Forest Nature Reserve is a lowland forest that sits right on the edge of the lake. This forest is famous for its huge variety of butterflies, and on a sunny day, the air is filled with thousands of colorful wings fluttering around the trees. It is also a great place to see baboons, though you should keep a close eye on your snacks because they are very clever and very fast. Near the forest, you can visit the German Gorge, which is a deep crack in the earth that was used as a lookout point during the colonial era. The views from the top of the gorge are incredible, looking out over the Great Rift Valley and the sparkling blue water of the lake below. Speaking of the lake, you cannot visit Burundi without spending a significant amount of time on or in Lake Tanganyika. Taking a sunset boat cruise is one of the most relaxing things you can do, as the sky turns into shades of pink and orange over the water. The lake is so big that it creates its own weather, and watching the clouds roll over the mountains of Congo on the other side is a sight you will never forget. If you are brave enough to get in the water, the snorkeling and diving here are unlike anywhere else in the world. Because the lake is so old and so deep, it is full of hundreds of species of fish that are not found anywhere else on the planet. These fish are called cichlids, and they are famous for their bright colors and interesting behaviors, making the lake feel like a giant aquarium. For a more local experience, you can join the fishermen at night when they go out in their long wooden boats to catch small silver fish. They use bright lamps to attract the fish to the surface, and the lake looks like a floating city of lights when hundreds of boats are out at once. If you prefer the mountains to the water, you should head into the highlands to see the endless green fields of the tea plantations in Teza. The hills here are covered in tea bushes that look like a giant velvet carpet draped over the landscape, and the air is cool and crisp. You can walk through the fields and watch the workers pick the leaves by hand, and then visit the factory to see how the tea is dried and packaged. Burundi is also world famous for its coffee, which grows in the rich volcanic soil high up in the mountains. You can visit a local washing station to see how the coffee cherries are processed and then sit down for a tasting session. The coffee here is known for being very bright and fruity, and it is often considered some of the best specialty coffee in the entire world. If you are feeling really active, you can try hiking up Mount Heha, which is the highest point in the country. The hike is challenging because of the thin air, but when you reach the top, you can see for miles in every direction across the rolling hills. It is a great place to sit quietly and realize why the local people are so proud of their beautiful green landscape. For those who enjoy history, the Livingstone Stanley Monument marks the spot where two of the most famous explorers in history supposedly met. It is a massive rock with their names carved into it, sitting in a quiet garden with a beautiful view of the lake nearby. Even though people argue about whether this is the exact spot, the history of the explorers searching for the source of the Nile adds a layer of mystery to the area. Another spiritual place to visit is the Sanctuary of Mugera, which is a major pilgrimage site for people from all over the country. It is a place of peace and reflection, where you can see how deeply faith is woven into the daily lives of the Burundian people. If you want to truly feel like a part of the local community, try to get an invitation to a traditional wedding or a local celebration. The music and dancing are infectious, and the traditional clothing worn by the guests is some of the most beautiful you will ever see. Learning just a few phrases in the local language, Kirundi, will go a long way in making friends and showing respect to the people you meet. A simple greeting like Amahoro, which means peace, will bring a huge smile to almost anyone you talk to on the street. When the sun goes down, you should visit a local neighborhood bar, which they call a cabaret, to try the local beers like Primus or Amstel. It is the best way to relax after a day of exploring, and to hear stories from the locals about their lives and their hopes for the future. Now, traveling in Burundi does come with some challenges, like navigating the busy traffic or figuring out the best way to get around. Most people use motor taxis to get through the city, which is a fast and fun way to travel, but you should always make sure your driver has a spare helmet. The best time to visit is during the dry season from June to September, when the roads are easier to drive on and the hiking trails are not too muddy. You will need to organize your visa in advance, but the process is getting easier every year as the country looks to welcome more visitors. Safety is always a concern for travelers, but if you stick to the main areas and listen to local advice, you will find that the country is very welcoming. The biggest challenge you will face is probably wanting to stay longer than you planned because of how peaceful the hills can be. Burundi is a place that rewards people who are willing to step off the beaten path and see the world with an open heart. It is not a place of luxury hotels and fancy buses, but a place of raw beauty, deep traditions, and some of the kindest people you will ever meet. Whether you are standing at the start of the Nile or dancing to the sound of royal drums, this country will leave a mark on your soul. If you are ready for a real adventure that most people will never even think of taking, then this heart of Africa is waiting for you. Check our video descriptions for the best deals in hotels and accommodation, flights, attractions and tours, travel eSIMs and insurance, transfers and airport services, trains and buses, car and bike rentals, cruises, package tours,